Record to the cloud. All right, we're recording. You are being recorded. Be warned, you are now officially on record.
All right. Well,
I'll give it another minute or two, just in case we have some people signing in.
oh yeah, I found that. Oh no, it's this one.
What do I need? Let me find the chat. There we go. You can't see the chat in the screen. Okay, good. Awesome.
Yeah, so we'll get started in just about a minute. If you're here in person, feel free to grab a snack or there's hot water.
Floating around up there.
What are they? It's a matcha candy.
What?
I was able to film it.
I love matcha.
Lorenzo disappeared. Mr. Owl staring at me. There he is. Like, hey, buddy, over here. There we go.
Take a lunch snack. Okay. Oh, these little guys. I have one, so I think try the whole one. Okay, let me go through my backpack again and see. I swear. You can take it. I swear.
Pick another one. There she is. She's back. All right. Shall we?
Okay, yeah.
Shall we? Let's do it.
So yeah, welcome everyone. I'm so glad you're here as we kick off the semester at the CTL, and I'd just like to begin by acknowledging my gratitude to be able to do this work with all of you on Mimiku land. And today's workshop is with Angela Meek, and we will be learning Canvas tips and tricks.
Ready? Are we going to go around the room
You
or?
wanna do that?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So let's do introductions first. So let's start on Zoom with Karenza.
Want to jump on and say hello?
Am I the only person online? I'm Karenza and I teach over in social sciences. I teach anthropology.
Karenza.
I was running later. I would be there. I can run over there if it's easier, if you don't want anybody online. Sorry.
This is actually great for us to get to practice.
Exactly.
So
Okay, awesome.
yeah, and can we go to this table?
I'm Christina. Over with the team division, teacher education mathematics now. So elementary, secondary internship courses and coordinator and literacy courses for the division is what I do.
I'm Jane Baldwin. I'm at the Adult Learning Center on Main Street. We do GD prep and developmental level college brush-up courses.
I'm Rachel, chemistry. I'm Julie Federides, and I teach Spanish for humanities.
Alrighty.
And I'm Marlo in CTL and English.
Everyone knows my face, I think, but just in case, here it is. Might not recognize me without all the hair when I'm wearing a mask. I'm very incognito. So I'm Angela Meek. I'm the senior instructional designer in e-learning. I've been at LC for coming up on 12 years. If I can do basic math in my brain. So I've been around for a while, worked in Blackboard, and now we're in Canvas, which I love a lot more. Okay, I'm slipping off my face now. A little mask here. I am the lead instructional designer for the professional studies divisions, so teacher education and math, nursing, business. They've all kind of jockeyed around, but of course, if you can't reach your lead instructional designer, which Carrie is the lead instructional designer for the liberal arts and sciences, is that what it is? This is not going to stand. Is it okay if I take it out? Okay, I'll try another one. Yeah, I am vaccinated, but it's not staying on my face when I start talking. Sorry. But if you can't get a hold of Carrie, of course, you can always try me. Thank you. All right, now I have to know, is it the blue side out or the white side out? Blue. Blue. There we go. Oh yeah, much better. Thanks. This is another thing we're practicing, right? Getting back in the habit of doing. Oh, there's Marcy. Hi, Marcy. Connecting to the audio. Where was I? Oh yeah, so that's me. I'm over in San Glen 214. If you need me when you're on campus, my direct line is 2623. You can always give me a call. Right now, things are crazy with meetings and appointments with everybody. So if you call me and you get my voicemail, leave a voicemail so it goes to my email and then I know to get back to you in the order in which your call was received. Trying to be equitable. All right. Alrighty, we're just gonna jump right in. So this is gonna be tips and tricks, things to streamline your course. Yes, ma'am.
Do we have, you can try the guest.
Yeah, or have you recently changed your password?
Oh, no. And yesterday I was connecting on campus, but let me try guest. But even as a guest or a student or a staff member, it's requiring it's passwords up there. It's capital W, capital W.
Yeah, go Warriors exclamation in the box.
Okay, yeah, my phone will only have to guess on my phone.
I did until I came here. Then I got on.
Yeah, I always have to remember every 90 days when I have to change my password, then I have to remember to go in and tell all my stuff that's connecting to staff to put my new password in so that it will get the good connection. All right, technology, we love it. Are we good? Everybody good? Is it still not doing it?
I might abandon and just go back to my office.
Or try restarting your computer. Sometimes if you reboot, it'll wake up. Okay, give that a shot.
Carry on.
All right.
Thanks for waiting.
Or Angela on, as the case may be, but I'm ching. Sorry. Couldn't help it. Okay, first up, we're just going to talk about the dashboard and kind of what's going on here and how you can organize this. I've gotten several calls where people are like, why are my spring classes still showing up? And what's the deal with this dashboard? So you can control what you see on your dashboard by going to the courses link on the left-hand side, the little book if you don't have the text showing up. And then if you scroll all the way to the bottom and access all courses, this is going to show you everything that you're enrolled in and allow you to decide what you want on your dash. So anything with an orange star is visible on your dashboard, and anything that's not starred is not visible. Your past enrollments cannot be brought back to your dashboard once you unstar them, so I will caution you there. But you will always be able to get into them from courses, all courses, should you need to jump into a previous term. So like from my spring class, if I didn't want to see that anymore, I could unstar it. And then I want to make sure that my fall classes are starred so that they show up, and anything else that I'm in. Actually, these little guys, these are new things. Those should look familiar to you, Christina. The little ed things that I put myself in. There's no save on this page. You just star and unstar things as you see fit, then click back on your dashboard and it will magically rearrange them. You can click and drag to change the order of things on here. I'm not a big fan of the color overlay, so I turn that off. Up here, there's dashboard options. Anywhere you see these three dots, these are like your more options or your editing buttons. They show up all over the place. So under here, you can turn the color overlay off. This is with color overlay on, which I'm not a fan of. Now that's particular to the user. So the students can control that on their end if they want that on or off, as well as the color that your courses are. So each course can have its own designated color. And the reason that's relevant is that those items in the course in your calendar will show up based on those colors you pick. So that's how you can keep track of which class, which assignment shows up in, because your calendar can populate like all of your classes at once if you wanted it to. So you can change those colors, and then students can pick their own colors on their end. So you can also give your course a nickname. So if you want to make it something more meaningful, like you can give yourself a nickname, and that changes the name right here. And again, students can customize that, so that's only for your view of your class. Righty. Questions on the dashboard or things you can do from the dashboard?
Is the size of the course squares, is that just your Zoom or is that a study Zoom?
This is my Zoom, because if you, I can make them. Yeah, so I can control how big or small my browser window is, but yeah, you'll probably, and I'm also on a smaller monitor, which is why I'm only seeing a few. Trying to make it a little easier for people logging in to see what I actually click on. You also have your to-do list on your dashboard. So as students start submitting work, this is a global area where assignments will start populating that you need to grade this stuff. And if you click on something from that list, it'll jump you into whatever course it's connected to and you can start grading, which is cool. Let's see, unpublished down here. Everyone should have gotten the message at their division meeting if we came and talked to you, but courses are going to auto-publish this semester. So tomorrow they will auto-publish and be visible to students. And at a minimum, we want you to have your syllabus out there visible for them. You don't have to have your content visible, that's fine, but we do want your syllabus out there. That's the official campus policy. All right, let's jump into a class. Do some things if there are no questions. The first thing I want to show you, and this is actually great because I don't normally work on a small screen and a lot of people have laptops, is how to set your course homepage. And that's the page that students first see when they land in your class. So on a larger monitor, this button appears on the right-hand side, but on a laptop, it frequently gets pushed to the bottom here. All these little options down here. I want to choose homepage. And I can set it to activity stream, which is kind of like a social media-esque kind of a thing. It just shows the most recent happenings in the class. I can do front page, which is what I currently have. That's a page of editable text. You can set it to load to your modules page, your assignment list. I don't know that I would ever recommend that option. Or you can go to your syllabus page. And unfortunately, you'll notice there's no announcements option in here, which a lot of people liked to have Blackboard load on announcements so that it was the first thing the students would see after about like the first week of class. But I will show you a workaround that's kind of cheap if you have it set to the front page.
Would that be on the course activity stream there too? Or just posted with
Um,
the announcement?
Yeah, it would. So that's one option. If you have it set to a page like this, and the template is set to open to a page, you can have it display recent announcements at the top. So we can turn that on in our course settings here. So I'm just going to the settings at the bottom of my course menu. And on the course details tab, if you scroll down past all the gobbledygook, there's a thing at the very bottom that says more options. This tiny little link that's hiding out down here. And this is kind of labeled weird because the checkbox that you want is not really directly associated with the thing. So it's this first little checkbox. If you check that, then you can set the number of announcements to show on the homepage. I don't know if I would go much past 3 because then it starts to push your content further down the page. But I have mine set to 2. You can select how many you want and then just hit update the course details. And as you post announcements, I don't know if it'll show because mine are old. Yeah, here we go. So then the most recent ones just show at the top. And then my stuff.
What was the page that you were in that had that little, I know it was more options, but.
Yep, so settings, and then you want to make sure you're on your course details
Course
tab.
details,
Yep.
okay.
And that was all the way down at the bottom, just our tiny little link here. While we're on the course details, the other thing you can do here, this is where you can change your course card picture. So if you don't currently have one set, it'll say choose image. Otherwise, you'll see the 3 little dots option to edit it. And you can put something from your computer on here by browsing your computer, or I love that they have this search engine. This is my sandbox class, so I'm just going to search for sand and pick a picture of sand. These are all Creative Commons free to use images out there that you can just go and grab. And that search feature is available when you build pages of content too. So if you need a picture of something, it's really easy to grab one.
And I love too that they already have their description.
Yes, a lot of them have alt text in them. Yep. Then if I wanted to pick a different one, then I have my options. I can change that. Of course, make sure you scroll down and save. Oops, scroll past it. Otherwise, it won't keep your changes there.
I've also been told by students that they really appreciate when we have the picture on there.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's super hard to differentiate.
Well, yeah, especially if you're using the template, they all have just the LC logo and trying to find your class with. And that's one that they cannot change. You set that course card. So they can change the color to help a little bit, but they can't change the image. And so, yeah, I've seen lots of really fun things. I think I'm in a couple of, yeah, like Rodney's got a picture of a cafe and all kinds of fun things you can do with that. The other important piece in your settings is the navigation tab at the top here. And that's how you control what is visible to students in your course menu. Now, some of these things have to be in the visible navigation for you to use them, but the students will not see them, like the Respondus Lockdown browser link. If you want to configure your tests, you have to have it in the visible course menu to get to it, but the students don't ever see that. two new ones that are just going to automatically appear are these, the You Do It and the item banks. You Do It is an accessibility checker you can run on your course, totally optional. We're not big brothering you with this thing. It's just in there if you want to try it. If you don't, you can move it out of your menu. The top area is the visible stuff. The bottom area is the invisible. If you want to use Zoom, you want to make sure it's up in your visible course menu. And if you have textbook publisher content, Cengage, MyLabs, all that stuff, you want to pull those up into your visible course menu. Item banks has to do with this transition Canvas is doing with their tests tool. So you can make that go away. That doesn't really need to be hanging out in your course menu. You can also, for those of you that did work in Blackboard, you couldn't hide the assignments link in Blackboard and then link to your assignments elsewhere in your course. It would tell you the resource was unavailable. That's not the case in Canvas. So we're going to look at the assignments page, but it's literally a list of every assignment in your course, which if students land on that page, they might go, like, what is going on here? I personally don't keep the assignments link visible in my class, and I just put the assignments out in the modules. So there's always a context for the assignment, and that's okay in Canvas. You can do that. It's not going to yell at you if the assignment link is not visible. Same thing with quizzes. You might want to do the same thing. It kind of depends. Quizzes maybe are a little more obvious what they would be, where they would be associated in the class, but you can do that. Just make sure you scroll down and hit save. I just moved all these things. What happened? It didn't work. All right. Here we go. Questions on that piece? Course details, navigation. Anything online? You can wave at the camera if you have a question. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about is how you set accommodations for students when they need more test time on an exam. That comes up a lot. I just have one person who needs time and a half or double time or whatever. So it's not super intuitive how to get to that. And there's actually two different kinds of quizzes in Canvas. So it depends on the kind of quiz you're using too. You will notice in my class here, there's classic quizzes, which are the ones that have the white rocket ships. And then there are the new quizzes, which have it's either solid green or solid blue, depending on whether it's published or not. But they're two different styles of quizzing. Eventually they're moving away to just one, thankfully. But for a classic quiz, you actually click on the quiz title, and then it'll either be on the right-hand side, or in my case, the settings are getting pushed to the bottom. I want to go into moderate this quiz. Then I get a list of everybody in my class. None of these people are real. Well, Summer's real, but she's not a student. And for each student, I can then click the pencil and give them more time or extra attempts too. If they get more than one try and you only want to give Joe Bob an extra try, but not everybody else for whatever reason. The thing to note when you're doing the extra time is that everybody always gets the base time. So if it's time and a half, you don't want to put 30 minutes in here for a 20-minute exam. I would only put 10 because then they'll get a total of 30. Or if it's double time, I would only put 20 in here. Then when I hit save, it says, I guess I didn't hit it.
Say that again. So it's only the extra time you're giving them on top of the.
Yes.
Okay.
So don't, so if it's 20, like this is a 20-minute exam, if they get double time, I'm only going to type 20 in here because everybody gets the base and then this person will get an additional. So when I hit, there we go. Oh, I guess it did save it, just small screen. So right here, it says Benny Bangle gets 20 extra minutes on each attempt and Butch gets 20 minutes extra on each attempt. Yeah, so that's for the classic quiz. Then for the new quiz, nothing can be simple, right? We have to have two
Angela,
answers. Yes.
is that you have to do that with every quiz, right? That's not something you can universally apply. Like if we get a letter from Disability Services that we could do, there's not a way to do that to apply it to all quizzes. You have to go into each quiz and do it, right?
At this time, yes, you would have to do it. There's no button that just says give Benny time and a half, and then it just magically does the math, which would be awesome. Now the new quizzes kind of lets you apply settings, but I'll show you in a second. There's a caution there. So with the new quiz, when you click on the quiz title, you actually go down to build, which I don't like this. It's really weird and makes it, I don't know, it's just not intuitive, but you click build to access the settings. And then there's a moderate. It's a very moderate tab. It's not very flashy. A moderate tab. And here, if I click the pencil, this would let me do global time adjustments, but it's not what you think because, oh, I'm a big fat liar. There is a time limit multiplier. Okay, cool. Maybe I somehow just didn't see that last time. So here you could, if you're using new quizzes, you could do your multiplier in here. So it would automatically do time and a half or 2, not 12. And then if I hit save, that's for every quiz that's a new quiz for Benny Bangle. He gets time multiplied by 2. Yeah, I didn't notice that the last time I was poking around in here. Or you have your individual moderation settings where you can just say, Joe Bob gets an extra attempt, giving him additional time. And it's the same thing for the new quizzes. You're just adding the additional time. So the base time is right here. So if he gets time and a half, then I'm only going to give him 30. And there's no save on here. It's kind of annoying. You just close this. You close the slider and then it's magically there. Time plus 30. Okay. Well, that's cool.
Cool, thanks.
So we all learned something new today. Go team. I love that. I love Canvas. And I'm hoping when they finally consolidate their quiz engine, I assume that's a feature they're going to keep because that's pretty handy.
Will they copy over, do you know, when they do that, or do we have to rebuild old?
You should be able to migrate them. Yeah, that's a whole nother bailiwick. You can actually migrate your quizzes right now if you are interested in getting a jump on that on any of your classic quizzes. If you select the options, you can migrate it to the new quiz engine. And there's pros and cons to that because of the different kinds of settings. And if you have questions about that, we can definitely chat about the options. The new quizzes engine just has some more question types that are a little more dynamic. Like you can post a single image and tag multiple questions related to that image instead of having to add it to each question. So like sciencey kinds of things, when you're doing diagrams and whatever, you only have to put the diagram in once and then you can put, 15 associated questions. Okay, I digress. So much about Canvas that I love that I could talk for hours and hours and hours. All right, and then we also sometimes have availability exceptions that we need to do where, Joe Bob's gonna be on whatever military leave and he needs to take his exam early or later or whatever. That's in a different place. And that can be done on assignments and quizzes and discussions. Anything you assign to students, you can give individual access dates and due dates to students. So I'll just use an assignment as an example. Pick an assignment, any assignment. Let's do this one. It's a graded assignment. Look at that. So go into the assignment options here by editing, and then down at the very bottom, we're going to work with the assign to area. Now, it may seem like you would want to just get rid of this everyone thing, but you don't want to do that. You want to leave everyone there because that would basically mean that only Angela is going to get assigned to this thing if I take everyone away. I'm going to add some exceptions for just one person. So I'm going to leave everybody alone, and then I'm going to add something special. So this list only shows about the first 10 students. So if you've got a class of 30, you might have to actually start typing their name in order to find them in the list. They're there, they just might not be immediately visible. We're going to give Willie Wildcat a separate due date. And I can just pick whatever that is. And I can also extend, he can see it before everybody else can see it, and he can do it until the 31st, whatever. Everybody else is due. 6. They don't get it until this day, and they only have it until this day. All right, so you can set up 2 separate criteria, and when you hit save, what will happen is that everyone becomes everyone else. So everybody else is this, and then Willie Wildcat is that. Now, and you can give more than one student the same settings. So let's say that applies to multiple students. And then I need to give a third set of settings to my assistant teacher who's in here, or whatever. So you can add as many exceptions to availability and due dates as you want for a given thing.
Can I just say, I love this feature. I love it for the fact that when I have a lot of student presentations, and they give their presentations on different days based on, time allotment, or they've signed up for presentations for different days. It takes some time to build, but I love like actually putting in the student's due date for their actual presentation. It clears up, like it takes care of so much confusion for students, like when they actually have to turn in their outline or turn it, for actual presentations, rather than just setting like the due date is the first day of speeches or what have you.
Yeah, because it'll give each individual student their due date in their calendar for what they're programmed to. Now, if you accidentally take away the everyone thing, don't panic, because when you go to your grade book, all the grades will be gone except for Willie Wildcat's grade. If you go back to the assigned to and just put the everyone back in, the grades will magically reappear. They don't get deleted. They just, yeah. It's like, oh, what happened? Yeah. When we were first learning Canvas, we had several scares where I was like, I don't know, let me go see if I can figure it out. So leave everybody alone. Yeah. That's also if you have your sections merged. So if you teach let's say you teach a 60 and an 01, and the face-to-face students have slightly different assignments, under the assigned to, you can pick a full section of students so that only that section of students would see the assignment. I don't know if I can show you that in this class because I don't know if I have more than one section, but when you click in here, yeah, you would actually see under course section, you would see Angela Meek Sandbox 60 and Angela Meek Sandbox 01, and you could assign it to just that section, which is really handy. Because a lot of times a face-to-face class and a fully online class, the content is the same, is the same, except for your face-to-face students aren't going to be doing the online discussions. So you can choose to just assign those to the online people.
So Angela, if I have settings already in everyone, and I just want to make an exception for one person, but I just don't do anything to everyone, but I add this of it, that'll all stay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Everybody stays with whatever you initially gave them.
Okay.
And then, yeah, so you can open things early, you can extend them late for just individuals. I had a situation one semester where a student was gonna, leave everyone alone.
Okay.
We had a student who was gonna be gone on maternity, so she asked if she could do some things ahead of time before she was on maternity leave having a baby, and so the instructor was able to give her early access, but not everybody else. So, yeah, it's pretty snazzy. Right, what else do I have on here? Oh, I have a note about sending announcements. I feel like everybody that's here in the party knows how to do that. The one thing to be aware of, when we talked about it a little bit at some of the division meetings I was at yesterday, when you send announcements, it's unfortunate that the email notification that goes to the student, it does not include any media that you put in here. It only puts in the text. So if you build this really cool student engagement kind of announcement where you've got a fun little meme, or you've got a video, something funny, or even just here's what we're going to do for this week, that's not going to translate to their email notification. They have to come into the class and open the announcement to see that stuff, which I'm not a fan of. It's one of my very few ticks against Canvas at the moment. That's been brought up numerous times on the community, so my hope is that they're working on that. But I just tell my students when I type in the announcement, like, please log into the class to view the whole thing, because I put some extra stuff in here that you're not going to see. And then having the announcements show up on your homepage, then they would be, then they can get to it from here. But yeah, if you put any kind of pictures or video embeds, sadly, those don't go out in the notification. There is a link at the bottom of the notification that says, view this notification in the class, so they can jump to it. It's very tiny at the bottom, and most people don't even notice it's there. So. And as we all know, students don't like to click more than 2 or 3 times. If it's 2 or 3 clicks away, it's like, nope, too many clicks, not gonna do it. So any way we can reduce the number of clicks is always good. Let's jump into how we can adjust all course dates in one place. There are options when you copy your course to adjust dates during the copy process. I just don't ever trust that. I'm always paranoid that the dates are not going to line up exactly. You can also just remove the dates when you do a copy, which is fine. I just roll mine over with my spring dates and I update them once I'm in the class. And where you do that from is from the assignments page. So you go to your assignments page, and then up here to these little dots, there is an edit assignment dates feature. And this will pull everything in your course. This might look a little, I might have to zoom out. Yeah, it looks really weird on a big screen or small screen, sorry. That's what it should look like. When you land on here, it pulls everything in your class that could have a due date or availability date and lets you adjust them all from one place. So you don't have to go out and click around and track down and do all that. Just click on your little calendars, make your dates. If items have the same due dates, you can click multiple items and you can batch edit them to apply the same to multiple things if you are of a mind. And then of course, just hit save. There you go. This is also a great way to track down if you've got some weird thing showing up in your grade book, or not in your grade book, but in your calendar, and you're like, where is this guy? What is the deal with this thing? I don't know why it's showing up. Yeah, so again, that was, go to your assignments page. And then the 3 dots in the very top corner, edit assignment dates.
That's actually edit the date.
Oh, sorry, I should probably show you that. Thank you. You'll just click into the little calendar and then you can say, okay, we're in the fall semester, so I need to bump this up to August. Well, if you batch edit, so here's another thing you can do, Rachel. If I select the title thing, it'll select everything. And one of the options under batch edit is to shift the due dates by a certain number of days. So if you knew, it's kind of, yeah, like if it's a spring to spring or a fall to fall, then, but you might have to fine tune it from there. But it,
then you wouldn't have to click each
right,
calendar
and
you had,
yeah,
but once
yep,
you'd be close,
Right.
and just change the day.
yep. So yep, you could,
That was really smart with it.
bam. So now they're all
Yeah, it's like 363 days.
right. So if this was a spring to spring class, and now all my January dates are 22, and you're right, now I only have to click on the month and then fine tune the individual dates. Yeah. This is a junk class, so I'll save that. You can also, if you don't already know this one, oops, take a second to make those changes. In your calendar, you can change the due dates of things just by dragging and dropping them. So if after you adjust things and you come into your calendar and turn on the course you're working on, then you literally can just drag and drop to change the due date. So that's another way to quickly adjust. Become well adjusted. All right. Time here. Marvelous. Questions on that? Looking over my shoulder when really to make eye contact, I have to look at this guy. I'll bring my tiles back, then I can see everybody's faces. You good there? Yeah.
I push it for 264 days. That seems to
It
work.
gets, yeah, see, it
No,
just
I mean,
depends
it's right
on,
for most
well,
of them.
sometimes it depends on, did we have a Tuesday start term or did we have a Monday start term because of the Monday holiday too? So, yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if you can, if you did it, if you could go in and say -1, if it turned like, if it, you know, you could take it back a day. Ha, anyway, you can play with it. You can't break it. Oh, this is a total sidebar that I didn't have listed, but I'm totally going to show you this because it's awesome. If you delete something and you're like, oh my gosh, I did not mean to do that. What did I do? You can bring stuff back. If you go to your home page, you have to be on your home page to do this. And then in your address bar, I think it's not, gosh, I didn't make a note. So is it undelete? Aha, yeah. After the end of your course code number there. So you have to be on the home page. This only works from the home page. Go to the home page. You have your course number. Put a slash, forward slash. Is that a forward? That's a forward slash. Left to right, forward. Type the word undelete and hit return. This is going to bring up a list of deleted items from your course, and you can go restore, bring back to us, bring back to us.
How long do you have?
I have a jillion items on here. I don't even know, like, I can't guarantee that when you restore something, I mean, sometimes depending on if it had components that then were deleted also, like, but if you know, you made a page and then you just went, oh snap, I did not mean to Thanos that, come back, you can come in here and restore, so. That is an excellent question. Do I have any? I don't know that I've deleted. Let's try it. I'm gonna delete an announcement in here and we'll see what happens. Announcements.
You put that reminder on your website or something, or wherever we have campus sections.
Yes.
That's a good one.
I will. I think we're putting it in our,
Next e-bite.
I think we're putting it in the September e-bites.
Yeah.
So let's just say, okay, I deleted working ahead. Delete. I'm gonna go home. I'm going to undelete. Oh, interesting. Apparently it doesn't like. Oh, no. Yep, there it did right there. Working ahead. Restore. Okay.
That's what I most often mistake.
And ta-da, it's back. Okay, yeah, so because Canvas doesn't really, most of the time it doesn't say, are you sure? So
I
that's,
wish it could do that for things that you don't delete, like the grading and rubric, and you would accidentally swipe off.
Oh,
it.
yeah. Ah,
That's my
yeah,
most common mistake.
yeah. I always turn off the touchy swipey things because I hate it when I accidentally, yep. So, yep, you have to be on the home page and then /undelete. That's a good one. Okay,
Apply to other web pages or?
I have no idea. I think it's just a Canvas thing.
Okay.
Yeah, that came out in one of their newsletters and I was like, I could see great danger as well as opportunity. So be very careful with that, but always, you know, go, once you've undeleted it, go and make sure it's still functioning, whatever it I would imagine it's going to depend on what the item was. Like my announcement came right back. All right, awesome. We'll send that out in the September e-bites. I feel like everybody in this room has been through the assignments page spiel, but it is a good one to go over because this is the weirdest brain leap for me from Blackboard to Canvas. The fact that the assignments page is what controls your gradebook. So everything, that is why the assignments page lists all of your assignments, not just paper assignments. It has your discussion boards and it has your quizzes too. Everything that's on the assignments page has a corresponding column in your gradebook. So it's really important when you're on your assignments page to make sure your things are grouped together in appropriately labeled groups. Because what Canvas does is anything you make as a group in this assignment page, it's going to put a column in your gradebook that shows students their average score for those items. So I have an assignments group here, and they're going to see an average of their assignment grades. I have a discussion group. So every discussion that's in here, they're going to see an average, like, oh, I'm doing pretty good on discussion. So far, I've got an 80% on my discussions. I have my quizzes down here. A lot of people like to parse out the quizzes and the exams separately because, you know, they're different values and worth more points or whatever. The other reason we want to group things is if you weight your assignment total, your final grade, or if you want to drop low scores in a set of scores. Those items have to be in the same group together to do that. So see, I've got a little discussion here who's not in the right group. I can just grab the domino, bring him down. The other thing the groups do is control the order things appear in your grades. So it's the hierarchy is the groups first, and then the items within that group. So, but I wouldn't, unless it bothers you, don't worry too much about this because students have their own set of sorting and viewing in their grades area. So, you know, if you think that you're forcing your students to see their gradebook columns a certain way, that's not necessarily the case. So this is really more for you than for the students.
So when you just grabbed it and dragged it, it changed its type in.
Yep, it just put it down here in the discussions, changed the group that it belonged to.
Now, I thought if you ordered it a certain way here, it would translate to the grade book, but I was not having that happen. I had to go into my grade book and move assignments and the columns that I wanted to see until I could go in order. Was there something I was doing? wrong,
It's
or-
possible the grade book has a lot of ways you can filter and view things. So it might have been that you had a filter turned on or something, or it was sorting by a certain way. We'll look at that next. The different ways you can sort and view your own grade book.
Because every time I made something new or I unhid something in my grade book, it would put it all the way like at the very end, and I have to like manually keep dragging.
Okay,
until
because
it
this
was where I
this
could see
should
it.
be controlling that order. That's interesting. Yeah,
Okay.
we'll
That's what I was
we'll
just
look at
making
some
sure.
settings.
Like,
So
theoretically, if I move it in here where you're on,
yes,
it should translate.
it
to
should
the grade.
translate to the grades. Yeah, and then it depends from there what sort of filters you have going in your grade book. So if you need new groups, like I have some, let's say I have these little ed puzzle assignments, I can make a new group. Call on uno momento, I promise. So to make a new group, if I could type, that would be great. It puts the group all the way down at the bottom. So if I don't want to have to drag and scroll, I can just click move to. I can say, put it in the ed puzzle group. It will just pop it down there for me. And now I have my ed puzzle assignments in their own little group. Another thing you want to look for, sorry, question first.
Did you say that, so if I have an in-class quiz
Mhm.
on paper,
Mhm.
but I want it in the grade book, do I have to make an assignment?
Yes.
For it?
Did everybody hear that question? What do I do when I need a manual grade column? Is basically the question. You have to make an assignment in Canvas, but you set it to be what's called a no submission assignment, which means students aren't submitting anything, but that's how you get that grade book column to appear. So you have a new assignment. It's in class quiz. You can put whatever you want in here, doesn't really matter. Then you would set your points, do all your standard stuff. But this is the difference here. Submission type would be no submission. Let me figure again. Easier to see. So it's a no submission assignment. Here you can assign it to the group you want it to be in, or you can come back and drag it around. But if I know it's a quiz, I can drop it in the quiz group from here. And that's going to make the column in order for you to manually put in those scores.
And no submission drop down, I saw something that said on paper too.
Yeah, I don't really know what the difference is. Honestly, I just always tell people use no submission. Like
Okay.
I don't know what that means.
Okay.
Do
Uh,
students see that?
But
I was wondering, would it make them think, oh, I don't have to submit that?
yeah, so what is weird about this? Yeah, you have to have it published too. It has to be published in order for you to grade with it. So yes, it does come up. What I typically do to offset the questions that inevitably come is I type something that
That's what I
says,
figured out, too.
you will not submit anything to this thing in Canvas. This is just
I
for
will
me to
manually
record
add
your
your
grades.
grades.
Yep, exactly.
Smart. Okay.
The other thing you can do, and this is what I do in my class, I don't let the students see the assignments link. So if it's a no submission assignment, as long as I don't put it out in my module anywhere, if it has a due date, if you put a due date on it in Canvas, it will show up in their calendar, so they would see it there. But that's another way you can get around that, is just don't let them see the assignments page, and then they would not even know it was a thing, especially if you don't put a due date. The other thing that has come up is, I did this assignment. Why didn't it cross off in my calendar? Because things will auto cross off as students complete them. Well, because they're not submitting anything to the course doesn't know they've turned it in, even though
the grades are good?
it doesn't ever cross off. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. So that's another thing you might say, like, this will not cross off in your calendar. Rest assured that you have completed it once you see your grade or something. Okay. So yes, that's how you get your manual gradebook columns. And that was another one that I was like, when I first started using Canvas.
Are you going to the waiting weeks and the categories?
Yes, that's where I'm heading right now. Okay.
I
Once-
did a weird thing, I just wanted
Okay.
to give you a warning. I found some cool stuff in the commons.
Okay.
And I don't think I imported a whole class, but I imported some quizzes
Mhm.
and some assignments. And I was calling it an essay, and the person who shared it called it a composition. And so my course, I only had one guinea pig student. She emailed me, she said, I have a 9.3% in the class, when it should have been like a 93%.
Sure.
Because it was counting, it wasn't even counting any of my assignments in the whole weighting of the
Okay.
categories.
Okay, yeah. So how the categories work, we'll show you. So
So that's a good thing to know though. So
Yes.
if they've already weighted something in the commons, that translates to your course.
yeah, you need to go in and
Okay.
update your weighting. So
Yeah,
how
I was
the,
like, I don't have a category called
Yeah.
compositions, but there were these assignments under that category.
Yep.
Percent of their score or something.
so make sure your assignments page has every assignment in an appropriate group, and you want to get rid of any empty groups. This, if you see a total group, that's a throwback from Blackboard. You do not need that in your class because Canvas automatically creates a total column. So you want to get rid of that. Sometimes when you copy your course, some of them will randomly get dumped into this this imported thing. I don't know why, it just seems random, but move them out of there and get rid of it. And anything that you're not using. So you want to make sure everybody's in their happy little group. And even though we built this as an assignment, you can put it in your quiz category as far as where the points would end up and what average column it would show up in. So you can cross the streams in terms of the kinds of items in here, if you need to.
Quick question. If
Yeah.
you do have assignments show up in the imported ones, and you probably want to move them where you want.
Yep.
your actual- okay.
Yep, just move them out of there. I don't know why it just throws them in that random little spot. So dropping those scores is done from your options at the module level. So you want to make sure you're in the gray bar area and go into edit. And then you can tell it to drop lowest or highest scores, so however many you want. And if there is an assignment that should never get dropped, like, I don't know, for whatever reason, student, this has to count toward their grade, no matter how poorly they do, you can make an exception. So discussion 1 never gets dropped, even if they bomb it. And then it'll take the next 2 lowest scores. So you can add those exceptions, which is pretty snazzy. Then when you save that, you'll actually be able to quickly see, what do I have going on for this group of things? Drop 2 lowest scores or never drop, and never drop. So that's the add dropping. And then the weighting happens up here. Question? Yes, no? Keep looking over there. Should look over here. Do you have a question on that? Oh. I muted you unless you have a question, Becky. Okay. He's like, no. If you want to wait, so again, the first step when you're gonna do weighting is make sure everybody's in the appropriate group. So add groups and jockey things around accordingly. And if you were to bring something in, you want to visit your assignments page first to make sure they landed where they need to be. So make adjustments to your weights or to your groups. Then at the very top, you go into your options for the assignments page and you select this right here, assignment groups weight. And then you need to say, yes, I do weight my stuff. And then every group that's on that page allows you to assign a weight to it. Now Canvas does let you go over 100%, so check your math. But then you would just come in here, those aren't worth anything because they're not graded. I'm not crazy, I don't even know, whatever. Then when you save that, each of your groups, it just gives you a quick view of what the percentage is.
Is that unrated category section 1 to delete also?
This, I have some ungraded practice assignments in my class. This is just junk content from my class. So,
Oh, it means that it doesn't count toward your grade, but
Yep.
it's not just pending grading.
right. I just want them hanging out in their own space so that they don't show up with the other things when the students look at their grades. What's your question?
I know, it's not the grade booker. So if you hide the assignments page, even though they're maybe published on my end, I see them all in the grade book.
Yep.
The students see them all.
Yes,
in the
they
grade
would.
book?
Yep, if
Okay,
it's
so I
published.
don't want them to see stuff that has something, I have to go and just unpublish the assignments themselves.
Well, you can hide them. So let's look at that. Let's actually jump into grades. Before we get into the details of all the columns, I want to look at the sort of the system gradebook level stuff. So this gear here is some policy setting you can do for your gradebook. And you want to do this before the semester starts because I think we discovered it doesn't retroactively apply. So some things you can do in here are to set your, that's just me, get out of the way, set your late grade policy. So you can tell it to automatically give zeros for missing submissions. The assignment has to have a due date on it for this to work, because otherwise it doesn't know it's missing. But after the due date passes, it will assign a 0. And then if the student submits the work late, your grade would obviously override that. But this is in the case of, you don't have to go back and retroactively put zeros for the running total to accurately reflect their score. You can also automatically apply a late policy. So if you have a 10% per day or 5% per day, it will automatically apply that. And that gets applied on top of what you scored the assignment as. So if you scored it and they earned an 80, but they're 2 days late, then it deducts the 5 or 10% off of the 80 that you gave them.
Would it be 5 or 10% off the total available points or off the score?
I believe it's off your score,
Off the score.
yeah, that you give them. So if you gave them 100% and it was 5% per day, they were 2 days late, they would get a 90. Then you have your grade posting policy. By default, everything is just once you graded it, shows up for the students. This lets you set your entire grade book to manual posting. That seems incredibly tedious. You can set individual gradebook columns to manual post.
I
So
did
for
love
example,
that.
if you didn't want your students to see their midterm until everybody took it, or the final until everybody took it, you can set the midterm column. So I don't know that I would
Super
ever. do that.
helpful when it takes you more than 1 day to grade.
Exactly.
Those
Yeah,
assignments.
then students are like, some of them are freaking out, or if you have a window, depending on what you let them see after the exam is over, or you don't want people sharing information.
Do you have to grade one assignment first to turn that on? Because I feel like I had a
Not if
problem.
you use, okay, I know where you're coming from with
Okay.
that question. Because if you look at the options for an individual column, there's a hide grade, post grade, and then there's the actual grade posting policy for the column, which is not exact, it's weird. There's 2 different ones, but I'll show that next.
Okay.
In the advanced tab, there's an allow final grade override. This isn't relevant to us necessarily because our grades don't transfer from Canvas to Warrior Web automatically. What it does do is create another column. So if you are inclined to round up or give bonus points for whatever, it just gives you a place to make a note of that before you manually input your grades into Warrior Web. So I
So
will.
Where do you get that? Because this is something I've run into.
How did I get to here, or where does it go once I save it?
Well, 2 things. Yeah, so where is that in settings? That's in settings.
This is, yep, I'm in the grades area, and then I'm in the gear in the upper right.
Okay.
So,
And so this is.
so then it's under advanced, and I can say allow final grade override. And when I hit update, if I scroll over to my total here, woo, here's my override column. So I can put whatever I want in here. And it's not going to affect anything other than it's a place for me to keep notes on who I decide to round up, because you still have to manually transfer your grades into Warrior Web.
Can you find that column?
They don't see it.
Oh, they won't see it. Okay.
I do
They
not-
don't
I
see
do
the
not-
override column?
I do not believe so.
I don't want them to get the idea that I will override things.
Right.
Even if
I'm
I might
pretty-
override
you know, that's a good
things.
question.
See, I just run into trouble with it because their cutoff for like an A- is 90%, but they don't round. So if you had an 89.9, it doesn't round to 90%. Like I do 2
Excuse
significant figures. I don't do 3. And so there's no way to change the number of significant figures that you use on this. And so 89.9% is a B+. But in my world, because I've only used 2 significant figures.
So here's the student view. And if I scroll down to where all my totals are, I don't see anything that says override, but I believe it's actually fake student. What does my fake student have before I say that? Okay, so I have 100%. So let's just test this. I know we're running short on time. Oh, we can't. Yeah, I can't do that. They give me some points on something. Here, you get a 90, whatever. Good job, wonderful. Then I'm gonna override you to 100. Let's see what it actually does. Because it doesn't say it's an override grade anywhere, but I'm curious whether it's actually gonna populate the 90 or the 100. Okay, so it shows the override grade, but doesn't tell them that you've overridden it.
Oh, that's what I want.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think that's the same with like the fudge points.
Yep,
So I've had some quizzes that have an essay question that are waiting for me to grade.
mhm,
I should make some notes of other things I want to learn from you.
Yes, our time is running nigh. Really quick, I want to talk about a couple of things you can do in your grade book as far as filtering and viewing. Under the view here, you can turn on different filters. So you can turn all of these on at one time or just assignment groups. I like to have assignment groups turned on because then what I can do is say, okay, I just want to see my assignments, or I just want to see my discussions right now, or I just want to see my Edpuzzle stuff. You can also do it by modules. So I only want to see my assignments for module 1, no matter what group they're in. So the view filters thing is really nice to be aware of. Let's see, statuses are automatically applied. That's a color coding thing. So late, missing, resubmitted, drop, blah, blah, blah. If you don't want to see those colors, you can come into statuses and just say, nope, don't care. I will figure it out in another way. So you can turn those off. Not everybody likes that. What's another cool point? So view and then statuses. Yep. Another cool one, you can move your total column to the front of your gradebook if you don't want to have to scroll. So from the total options, you can just say move to the front. Yay! It's kind of nice. It's a little easier to see at a glance who's doing what, though it does slide pretty easily. And you can set your total to be displayed as clicking on the wrong thing. Slow down, slow down. You can display it as points or percentages. I don't know why it's not showing up for me, maybe because no one's really but another cool one that I've talked about before, but maybe you haven't been privy to this one, is on the column level of every gradebook column, there is this really cool thing called message students who, and I love this. Yeah, this is the greatest thing ever. Yes, so you can quickly message students who haven't been graded yet. So let's say you got halfway through grading, you get COVID, you're sick for a week, whatever, and you need to let the students who haven't been graded know, like, you're not just being a slacker. Sorry, I'm sick. I promise I'll get to you ASAP. It'll just filter by people who haven't been graded. It's a blind carbon copy, so nobody sees whoever else got the same message. But more importantly are these ones, scored more and scored less than. And I love the scored more than because you can come in here and say, okay, anybody who got higher than a 90, and you can send them all out a kudos message. Like, you really rocked your midterm, way to go, that's awesome. And it just goes to the individual student, so no FERPA grade violation going on. And then of course, conversely, you can reach out to the folks who didn't do so well and say, study group, how can I help you? Meet me in the office. Don't put their name in because it does go to everybody, but you can at least reach out all at once. And I just think that's really cool. That's available on everything in your grade book. Okay, so the hiding and posting in the manual grading thing. We have 1 minute left, but nobody's beating down the door yet. So before the term starts, if you want to hide your midterm column, for example, so you don't have the option to hide and post like you were talking about. If you go into the grade posting policy for the column, you can just set it to manual right here, and then it's good to go. If you forgot to do that and students have already submitted stuff, actually, then you can do the hide. So here I can say hide grades, and it kind of tells you what's the deal with that. And it'll actually say that the grade is hidden.
No, I think it shows up with a little symbol.
Yeah, I think it has a lock on it that says this. If they hover, yes, yes, and then it puts a lock. I think if they hover over it, it says like your instructor is hidden in this column or something like that. And then you can come back and post the grades. You can do everybody or just the people that are graded.
Sorry, I can get to that real quick to do it before the semester starts.
Before the semester starts, you want to click your column options, and it's the grade posting policy for each column. Yeah, and that one's good to set up in advance because once they start turning it in, it kind of does weird things. But then you can still do the hide grades too.
I'm just thinking of the ethics of this whole option. Is there a point in the semester when all grades are fully transparent to the students?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know what the what those policies are as far as letting them see their stuff. But I guess it would be up to you. I mean, I know you have to post your midterm grades by certain times, but like,
But that can even be just cast it.
right, that's true.
I mean, I don't think everyone even uses the grade book.
That's true. You do not have to if you are, especially for, I mean, every class has a Canvas space now, including all the face-to-face classes, but you don't necessarily have to use it if you are not inclined, other than putting your syllabus up.
The answer is yes, I believe it is December 20th.
Yeah, you have, there you go.
At noon, I think it was.
Yeah, I think you're right. I believe, oh, and you do have an individual view for the grade book. So if a student comes into your class to discuss their grades, you can go into individual view. I'll show you grade book history too, for the captive audience. And you can find an individual student and you can pick by assignment, or you can just pull up their whole grade book section. So you can review that grade book information without violating FERPA. Because you don't want to be showing other students other people's grades, and then to go back to your standard grade book, you go back to the standard grade book. Now, I have had it come up where someone has called me and said, why are there grades assigned to this assignment? I didn't go in there and grade that. Well, we did because Canvas doesn't just grade essays or whatever. So you can go into the grade book history to see who actually graded the stuff. So in gradebook history, it will show you who the grader was. And what happened was there was a co-teacher. The co-teacher had graded the assignments without telling the other
Oh,
person.
that would be something.
Yeah, right? Like, can I get one of those? Sign me up. So this is kind of a cool area because it does show you, and you can filter it down by particular assignments or students or whatever, but it does show you who graded the assignment, what the assignment was, you know, before and after kind of a situation. So if you change the grade or whatever. So yeah, so just be aware that that's a thing, and that's in grades under the grade book drop down here. Individual view, grade book history. There's some mysterious activity happening.
Just show your activity or student submissions.
The grade book history?
Yeah, like if it was a quiz that was multiple choice.
That's a good question. I think it shows everything. I don't have a way to test that, but I think it shows everything in there. The quiz, I know with the quizzes. History and the quiz. Might have to follow up on that one. Trying to remember. Show student quizzes. None of my students have taken this quiz. Slackers.
Perfect. Oh,
Right.
that's great.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. We could follow up. I'm 4 minutes over my time, but I'm totally willing to hang out and answer Canvas questions if anybody has any, or you want to see other new exciting things.
Yeah, and if you're in here in the room, there are evaluations on the table. I haven't quite figured out how to do the evaluations for our Zoom folks. That's on my
Oh.
list of
Yeah.
questions for this week.
Unless you have,
Again, they will see the grade book for any assignment you have published if you have the assignment feature.
Yes,
right? So I
yes,
have to go
unless,
in manually
yeah, even if
find
it's
those
set to
ones.
manually publish, they'll still see that item hanging out in there.
Okay.
We could try, I'm just curious, let's see what happens.
Submissions call.
Sure. To this, if I set it to manual, okay, so module 2 assignment is set to manual. Let me impersonate let me jump into student view and see what it looks like. Yeah, so here's what it looks like. It's not a lock, it's an eyeball. So I set this to manually post, and when I hover over it, it says instructor has not posted this grade. So that's what they see.
I've never had this. I see either. So I-
Right.
Angela, I know we're out of time.
Yeah, Prince,
But-
question.
Yeah, my discussion board is setting up weird, but I just need to go rewatch the tutorial, but like all the discussions, it's like when they post like the pinned, can you just do a quick review on pinned versus like how to
Not
move
pinned.
these around?
Yeah, so the deal with discussions, there are 3 areas. You've got pinned, you've got the center area, and then you've got the closed for comments.
Yeah.
In your discussions that are in the center discussion area, the order changes based on recent activities. So if I post to the coffee shop, that's gonna move to the top of the list. Then if somebody else posts to the week 3 play area, that's gonna move to the top of the list. If you want them to stay in a specific order, you need to move them up to the pinned area. And then whatever
Okay.
order you place them in, that's where they'll stay.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Cause I'm just
Okay.
like, I felt like I kept putting them in the right order, but yes, that makes perfect sense.
Yep. And so the central area really is more for things that aren't necessarily specific to a week or a module, like, again, like your coffee shop, or I have a practice discussion where they can just go and fiddle around with it while they're trying to figure it out. That's where I would put those kinds of things. And then my weekly stuff, I always put, you can see here, I'm in order up at the top.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much. I was like, I just have to go back and remind myself because I'm not sure which to put in which space.
But interesting. I'm not entirely sure. Yeah, I'm not really sure why they even have that. I guess it's kind of more social media-esque in the center, things moving around based on activity.
Based on that, I have a follow-up question.
Okay. Oh, questions are good.
Because what I've been doing is for each week, I put it into the pins and then I put it into the
Well,
pins.
yeah, you could.
And then if everybody's done, I close it.
Yep.
But if they're not done, I just unpin. Would it be
Okay.
better if I just put them all into pinned in order, or does it? really matter?
It just comes down to what you're comfortable doing. If they're all in the pinned area, every time the student goes to the discussion board, they're gonna see them in the same order. That's really the only difference. Anything that's in here just moves around based on activity. So the only big deal or big important section or thing to know about this is if things are down in the closed for comments, the students can still read the discussions, but they can't post them anymore. But otherwise, it's really kind of potato. I guess my thoughts, I put mine in the order of that they occur in the modules, but then in my modules, I just put a discussion link in my module so that, yeah, so. Yeah, the only reason I don't hide my discussion link outright and just use the modules is that I do have those water cooler areas that don't really fit anywhere. So I want them to be able to get to those.
Well, and the
wherever.
other thing is when I'm doing it, the course Q&A is always pinned. And then I just put the 1 week above it, so that the course is always there.
Sure.
That is just,
I made students go back and find them, like once a week passed, I just unpinned it and I would always put that week stuff, because I had a lot of stuff going on in my online course.
yeah.
And then the only thing I didn't like was that if they had to do late responses or whatever, I'd see it, like there's 3 unlooked at things in here. So
Mhm.
then as I went through, I would then hide them even from like shrink them down, I guess.
Oh,
So I wasn't
sure.
seeing like the previous weeks if they were all done. I knew I had everything very good.
Oh, yeah. All these little tips that we do.
I know, and that's just, there's so many there's so many cool little things that you can do with Canvas that, I'm slowly accumulating all of these things, right? Because I'm the meta user. I get exposed to all this stuff. So then I get to the joy of sharing the cool tricks, like the undelete. Undelete. That's a great one that I just learned about. Any other questions, thoughts, comments while you have me on the horn here?
Angela, can I ask a question about the Zoom function?
Yes.
I understand how to create a Zoom link in a class. My question is really about if we wanted to use Zoom for office hours. Like obviously I'd be using the same link for multiple classes. Is there any way to do it? Like, do I really just have to go outside of Zoom or like log into Zoom and create that office hour space, or just create a link to my, or is there a way to do it so that, because my office hours are going to be the same for all of my classes. I don't have separate office hours for separate classes. but it seems like when you
But I
create
usually
it.
tell people, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just, what I usually tell people for office hours is use your personal meeting room. So you're gonna use the same meeting ID every time. You can put a password or not, but the big one is just turning on your waiting room.
Uh-huh.
That way, when somebody comes in, then, you know,
Private.
someone's trying to override me and jump the line or whatever, then you can decide, okay, nope, it's not Christina's turn yet, it's Angela's turn. So they're hanging out in the waiting room until it's their turn. And like I said, so it's private, so you only have one person in there at a time if you're talking about
Yeah.
private stuff. That would be that's usually what I tell people to do.
And you can do, and that can be done from within Canvas
Yep.
Zoom.
Yep, so am I still, okay, my screen share, yep, so you just go to your personal meeting room tab, and then that's the meeting ID you would share out for your
Okay.
office. And then if I edit this guy, I would just want to make sure I had my waiting room turned on, and probably turn off enable join before host. I mean, you
Yeah.
have it's just kind of an extra caution there.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you don't have to send out 50 different things for the same purpose.
Cool. Thank you.
Instructors.
You're welcome. Yes, yeah. So what happens is when you log in as you, if you two are sharing a class together, when you log in as you and you hit Zoom, you're going to see your Zoom. And when you log into the same class, when you hit Zoom, you will see your Zoom account. So you could technically have.
And so if I had, so this is what we have going on. We have a site in Moscow, looking at Rangeville, Lewiston, but we want to use the same orientation class.
Gotcha.
And you can have it, where we set up different, how do we communicate to these users, or the users communicate to us if they want to Zoom? We had scheduled.
Yeah, okay, cool. Let me show you a cool thing. With the appointment scheduler in Canvas, actually.
Oh, okay.
There is an appointment scheduler.
Yeah.
This,
Let's play with all of it.
and that's what this, see these 40,000 things, I've set up appointments that they can sign up on. But if you come up to your little, you have to be in, so we want the class that you're in, I guess you'll be able to pick that. But if you go and do a new appointment group, and I have a video for this, if you want to send me an email, I can send you this walkthrough again. But basically what the appointment scheduler lets you do is, you know, you could call it office hours, you could call it whatever you want to call it. You set up those blocks of time for the course. And then when students go into the course calendar, they actually have to click a button that says something like find appointments or something. They don't automatically populate, but they click that button and then they just click on a time slot, and then you get a Canvas notification saying Angela has signed up for 1:30 on Friday. And then at that point, you could give them the Zoom meeting ID, or if you already told them what that was going to be, then they would just, yeah. And the notifications would go to whoever was enrolled in the course as an instructor, as long as they didn't turn off those notifications in their settings, of course. Because everybody can control everybody. So that's a new thing that you may not be aware of that they instigated. You have your account level notifications that you set up here, and your account notifications here, and that trickles down to everything. But then on a course by course basis, you can control the notifications you get. So let's say in my fall class here, if I scroll down, or again, it'll be on the right hand side if you're on a bigger window, I can go into view course notifications, and I can adjust the notifications at the course level here. So I can completely turn them off, which I would never recommend doing, but you can. And maybe, maybe in this class, it's not really that discussion heavy, or maybe it is discussion heavy. So instead of a daily summary, you want give me the notices every time. That would drive me insane because that would be so many discussion notices, but you can adjust at the course level the kinds of notifications you would get. And here's your student appointment signups. I have mine set to let me know immediately because I would want to know.
We tried the appointment setups last year for some of our testing that we won't do a schedule for.
Mhm.
And they all tried to use their phones for it, and they could not use the app to find.
So interesting.
Find my appointment.
It might be one of those, it might be one of those things, oops, I didn't mean to do that, sorry.
So I didn't know if you heard if that was.
It might be one of those things that doesn't work through the app. There are a handful of features that they have to be on a computer to use, and that may be one of them. Let me see. There may be a button they have to push. Oh, no, right there. Students can only sign up for appointments using a browser.
We
So
tried to tell them that and they still
Oh.
said, but I can't find it.
I know, it's amazing, even though, so that's another thing to be aware of if you don't know. Official campus policy is that students are supposed to be using a desktop or a laptop when they
Ah.
interact with their online
But it's
classes.
not on my phone.
I know. Yeah, so just, right? So that is something to be aware of though, like that is the official campus policy that students are, but of course they use their mobile phone, so. Which I don't blame them. I mean, it's quick and easy, but not everything works the way that it works in the desktop version.
Would that
So-
information be in the student mobile guide? There was something that I put into one of my online courses that said, if you're using a phone, check out this Canvas mobile.
Yeah, there is I think the mobile guide does somewhere out there have a thing that compares like browser versus mobile.
Yeah,
In my class, actually, I have
I don't know if you have that.
where do I have that? Hang on.
I did put that one in my class. There's actually a Canvas guide for mobile phones.
Yeah, I do a unit on the Canvas mobile app, and there is a document, the Canvas app versus browser, that it's probably way too TLDR for most students. They're probably not gonna read it, but it is, yeah, at least you can say yeah, so if you want the link to this, you can send me an email and I'll send you the link. This is a Canvas doc that they share out. Oh, see now this, yeah, this is the, yeah. Wait, now this says students can sign up for appointments from schedule on the mobile, oh yeah, just web. So
So
they
they
can
have
use
to-
their phone, but they have to be in the browser,
browser,
not the
okay.
app.
Oh, that's good enough.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a workaround. But sometimes students are like, what do you mean? I can't just do it in the app? Like, no, sorry,
Yeah.
it doesn't work that way. All right, I am encroaching on your open house time.
It's all right.
And like I said, I can talk,
Everybody should
I
have
can
more. Yeah,
talk
thank you
forever and
so
ever
much.
and ever. So yeah, we are hopefully gonna.
Thanks,
send out
Angela.
that asks you all what you would like to know more about, and then do some of those little short 30-minute lunch and learn remote sessions that we did last spring that I thought were kind of fun and that are, just meant to be short, show up and learn about one thing. There is a new kind of assignment that they have released called a student annotation that allows you to provide students with a document and then they can annotate on
Oh,
it.
I definitely want to learn
I
about that.
need that.
Yeah, so that's cool. And then, yeah, anyway, again, stop
Okay.
talking. Okay, bye, friends. Do you want me to end the meeting
Yeah,
or?
that would be
Okay.
fine.